We're back.
It's your mom, friends. I'm Chrissy.
And I'm Jess, and we are just two moms passionate about helping women fuel their minds, care for themselves, strengthen their relationships, and create lives they truly love.
Each week, we bring you honest conversations, practical tools, inspiring stories, and real life strategies to help you navigate motherhood, marriage, personal growth, and everything in between.
Whether you're listening while folding laundry, sitting in the school pickup line, or finally enjoying a few quiet minutes to yourself, we're so glad you're here.
So grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and let's dive into today's episode.
Today, we have a special guest who I would like to say is special to both Chrissy and I, and we will dive into that story. But we would like to bring you Denise Walsh. Denise, would you share with us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Denise. My 30-second commercial is that I'm a former clinical psychologist turned entrepreneur, something I never expected. I really never knew anything about entrepreneurship before I said yes. In fact, I got into clinical psychology because I was a counselor at camp working with inner city foster kids. And after seeing their growth at camp, they came to camp with their head down and their, shoulders droopy, and they really didn't know how awesome they were. And throughout our time together, I saw them stand up straight and give eye contact, and their confidence started to grow. And I thought, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to help people know just how awesome they are. And so I got my master's in clinical psychology. Got my first job. I was off to change the world and quickly felt burnt out, overworked, underpaid, and started to look at other options. And that's when entrepreneurship, network marketing, and creating my own coaching programs came to be.
So I was thinking about this morning before we got on this call. I have known Denise or known of Denise for it's like 17 years now. Yeah, it is crazy. I want to say Deegan it's okay, 15 years because Deegan was two, maybe three when I kind of became aware of network marketing and it works. And so that's kind of and I just happened to be on Denise's team. So for anybody listening and I know we have some listeners who were involved in that world with me and know of my journey in network marketing. And I was on Denise's team. And her sister Lisa. So these people became a part of my life from afar. And then finally I went to an event and we got to meet and take pictures. And so Denise in my world was like a celebrity. I loved following her and I loved everything that you created, everything that you spoke about, all of the trainings. And network marketing for me was very much a personal development journey. I didn't care so much about the products themselves. I cared about the person you became. And network marketing for me was very much the birth of wow, we're supposed to grow. We're supposed to feed into ourselves. We're supposed to work on ourselves. And so that's where my journey with Denise started. I went through a season of life where I was focusing solely on myself and where I was in life. And our listeners are well aware that, my marriage was in shambles. I was at my worst, I guess you could say. And Denise shared about 90-day U-turn. And so I would see this like 90-day U-turn, come join our 90-day U-turn. And I was like, what is this? And at that point in my life, I chose to invest in myself in every way possible. I knew that I didn't want to be this person anymore. And I needed to work. I needed to start with me because I had tried to change everybody else around me and that didn't work. And so I needed to start and I looked inward. And so I reached out and I was like, okay, what's 90-day U-turn? I think I need it. And it was a life-changing program for me.
I have a couple questions for Denise. Now, I was also part of It Works, but I was not on Denise's team. I was on a completely different team, and it was 90-day U-turn. Well, I've always kind of secretly followed Denise because you too were a celebrity in my eyes. I just looked up to you. And the fact that you were a clinical psychologist, and I am very much in that world. I've been in that world for many, many years, not clinical psychology, but therapy, social work, those types of things. So I really felt connected in that sense. And so when I learned about 90-day U-turn, which I don't want to give away too much, I want you to be able to speak about that, Denise, but I believe that that was really the pivot for me and why I was able to really kind of heal from past stuff and allow myself grace on things that I was holding myself really to a higher standard. And I always felt like I was coming up short. And just the way that you work with people through that program was something I didn't know that I needed until I went through it. And then the retreat. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have you talk about your retreats too. I don't want to give away too much. Denise, tell us about 90 Day U-Turn. Tell us about your coaching stuff. Tell us all the things.
Well, what I found in network marketing is, I'm a therapist and I started network marketing on the side, like most people do. So I had my full time job, and then nights, weekends, I was working my business. And I found myself being like, talking about people with self harm and divorce and, cutting, and like I was leading trauma programs and anger management, which was a very feisty group. And, all these things, I was like in this world. And then I'd be like, would you like some wraps? And so it was it was a bit of a dichotomy, but I found that number one, my business gave me energy. My business was it was something where I found I was actually doing some of the things I was doing at work with these people who wanted to start their own business. Because they'd say to me, I want to start my own business. I want to get out of debt. I want to get a new job. I want to quit my job. I want to XYZ. And then as soon as they said yes, they'd freak out and they'd go, bah, well, I don't really actually want to do something different. And then they would shrink back to what they understood, even if it was harmful or they didn't like it or they was, didn't really want to be where they were. It was scarier to change. So while I'm working in my therapy world and I'm working with these new distributors who tell me one thing and do another, I thought, it's kind of the same thing. I am now looking at this new distributor saying, all right, so you say this, you're saying you want to get out of debt, you want to build your business, but you're not willing to post, or you're saying one thing, but yet you're self-sabotaging. And so I found that I was utilizing my goal setting, time management, the identity piece that I was doing in my therapy world with the healing journey and all the things with my distributors. And I think that's one reason why our team, it wasn't just about sales. We really did feed into each other, and we grew and we became, we were united and we cheered each other on, and it was so much fun. And then eventually I was like, not everybody wants to like be in network marketing, but everybody needs this information. So how do I package it in a way that you don't need to be a business owner to benefit? And 90 Day U-Turn was born, and it really came out of, 15, 20 years of the therapy work, but then also working with these new business owners that often would self-sabotage. And I figured out the things that I was doing with my team and with my clients again and again and again and again, and put it into a 12-week program.
That 12-week program was just amazing. And for someone that's been in school her entire life and felt like I could teach a lot of the stuff, teaching it and actually working the program are two completely different things.
Yeah.
Right? And so that was huge for me.
Yeah, no, you're right. We can say the things, but
Mhm. I
actually
love it.
creating the space to do the exercises yourself, and everything within the program I've done myself. I've done it with Tony Robbins or in my clinical days or Jack Canfield or John Maxwell. It's like all this stuff woven together. And everybody needs to have the space to work through this stuff every few years. I feel like we all pivot every few years. And this is a really great time to be like, all right, what do I want next? And work through that clarity.
It was a complete perspective change. Like Christy said, I had been in that personal development world for years, but I still found myself self-sabotaging in my relationships as a mom, in business. And it wasn't until I hit this kind of, I don't know if maybe taking the business aspect away from it and having it truly just be about myself, that I got so much out of it. It was a perspective shift. Like I knew the info, but when I applied it finally directly to my life through these exercises week after week, that it was like, my gosh, I've talked about it with our listeners. I talk about it in the Reconnect room, that I can like remember sitting at my desk, going through one of the activities, meeting on the call, bawling because I was the crier because I'm the emotional one, and having this moment where I was just like, that's it. Like I got it. I got the shift. I got the perspective change. And I remember sharing with everybody that like I had been waiting for my husband to do and be all of these things. And then all of a sudden it was like, but I'm not doing or being all these things. And it was like just in that moment, holy crap, like I got it. And that 90-day U-turn will be forever something that is priceless to me because it changed my whole life.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of those people that got to sit and listen to me bawl my eyes out became one of my best friends. I wrote down, you never know where relationships could go. So something that started so long ago because I said yes to this silly little rap business that brought in some incredible people in my life. Your sister, Lisa, she was a part of my transformation. She helped coach me nutritionally. I learned so much about nutrition from her, like having her in my life, having you in my life, this 90-day U-turn, and then ultimately meeting Chrissy because of it. Now look at us here in 2026 on a podcast that we would never have a podcast, like
Yeah.
just to see things come full circle. You just never know how one connection ultimately can change your life years down the road.
Yeah.
I've tried several different iterations of 90 Day U-Turn before I landed on it. I did a couple workshops that were like 3 hours long. I did a full day event. I did e-course where I'd be like, good luck, have fun, go do it on your own. And what I found is that people don't do it on their own, and we need a place to talk through it and process through things. I don't know if it's the girl in us or if it's kind of how God made us, is we need to actually process through. You can't just think your way through a problem. You have to talk it through. And so the way that we set it up was that you get the content, like you get to learn something. We're not just chit-chatting here. You're learning something. You have the content that you listen to during the week, but then you write about it within the worksheets and go through that exercise. But then we meet weekly to talk about it and to talk through it. And that's where those aha moments come, because you're getting feedback from others and you're actually saying things that you never really would say to people that you're not going to see in the grocery store. And I think that's one reason why 90 Day U-Turn is so special, is because it's a unique group of people who are growth focused, but they're not in your everyday world. So you can talk about real life stuff, knowing that it's a safe space and you're not going to run into them. And growth happens there. I think that's the beautiful thing. And then to have the exclamation point of the retreat that you both said yes to is icing on the cake.
And I know personally, I've spoken some things that I've never spoken out loud through that process. And part of it was the safety of the group too. As you spoke of, Denise, I live in a small community in a very much rural area. And so, like, everybody knows everybody. And so sometimes I cringe when I post because I know people know me and I'm going to see them in the grocery store. I'm going to see this. So vulnerability is not easy for someone like myself, especially when you're a professional in the community in which you live. And so being surrounded by growth-minded people, I don't like to say, I mean, I like-minded people, but growth-minded people, because we're all on our own journeys, but we're all looking for growth. Knowing I'm not going to run into them in the grocery store. They don't know where I work or all the things. I'm choosing to share what I want to share. And that for me adds a layer of safety too, which was super helpful for me to go through that process in the way that I did. But then the icing on the cake was the retreat and being able to hug people in real time and do the hike and do the whitewater raft trip that I almost flew out. Oh, do you remember that? I still actually jumped out of an airplane in February, and I was just saying, the whitewater rafting trip was more of a rush for me than jumping out of an airplane at 10,000 feet.
So they're called Dream Life Adventures for a reason. But you're right. I think it is. It's the growth focus. It's the intentionality. We do breakout rooms, so you're not necessarily having to share in front of 20 people. You can share in front of one person, but then you get to know people throughout the group. So you weren't paired with the same person for the entire program. You really got to know people within. And what happened is I started with 90 Day U-Turn, and then I had people go, well, how can I do what you do? And I was like, I don't know. I've been doing this for so long. I don't know what I do. I just do it.
Fair.
So I had to think, all right, well, what are the clinical skills behind, the why behind the why? Why do I ask these questions? What are the little patterns I'm picking up on? How do I get people out of extremes into, I call it the gray area, but it's really what's probably going to happen, what's real, like staying grounded versus catastrophizing and things. And so I then created the clinical skills, which is a lot of the family dynamics and the things that as a coach, you're listening for. You're not necessarily teaching or saying to your clients, but to pick up on it. And so after 90 Day U-Turn and people were like, how do I do that? I thought, I don't know. Let's figure this out. And so we created the clinical skills with the goal of giving coaches the meat and potatoes of what to do with clients, not just the theory, but here's what to do, here's what to say, here are what exercises you can go through. Here's a library of ideas that you can pull from when it matches your client's needs. And both of you guys excelled in that program.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was chatting with a friend the other day who she was sharing a situation that she was going through. And I found myself talking to her through recognizing patterns, recognizing this like worst case scenario thinking that she was going through. And so I started sharing these things with her and I was like, okay, well, let's look at this. Like, what's real? And she said to me, you're telling me not everybody thinks like this? And I was like, everybody needs this work. Everybody, if we think, even if you think that this thought process is normal, like there's room for growth. And so just creating that awareness that, like, I don't want to, oh my gosh, I do find myself thinking worst case scenario. Or, I do, when I first moved out here with my kids, it was like Deegan wanted to go to the river and go fishing. And I found myself like envisioning all the worst things going wrong. Like, my gosh, did he get down there okay? Did he fall in the river? Did he, like all of these things? And I'm
Yeah.
like, Jessica, you've got to get, no, we should not be thinking like that. We have to take those thought captives. And so when I shared this with her, she was like, where have you been? Like, where have you been all my life? Like, why am I just now realizing that, like, not everybody thinks this way? She goes, I just assume, which is probably why me and my spouse are constantly like this, because he does not think like that. And he thinks that I'm overgeneralizing, making a mountain out of a molehill. And so I was like, yes, we can work through these kinds of situations. And so the awareness that so many people are lacking in that the way that their thoughts are controlling their actions, which is controlling their relationships with themselves and other people. And so I love how you talk about the community piece. Chrissy and I, we both have groups, we both have programs. So all three of us here have opportunities for women to come into, to work on themselves, to love themselves, to grow, to change their perspective, to just create awareness to the fact that my emotions and my thoughts don't have to run my actions, which in turn is, playing a huge part in where their life is right now. And I don't think out of fear, out of shame, out of, like Chrissy said, being a professional in her community, that fear of like, being vulnerable and opening up isn't something that I'm totally comfortable with. How many people, how many women, how many listeners struggle to say yes to join something? I know group coaching is something that people very much struggle with. Like, I don't know that I want to talk about this in front of people. And it's like, you need to. If you feel like you can't, that is a sign that you need to talk about this. You need to push yourself, grow yourself, because that's where the change happens.
Yeah.
It's
It's
true.
so true.
That's one of the weeks, week 7, which every week I'm like, this needs to be first. But, you can't have everyone every week be the first week. 'Cause this is week 7 where we talk through the thought traps. And I remember when I created it, I thought, oh, everybody knows this already, because I learned it when I was 22 in my clinical psychology days. So you think, oh, I was like, oh, everybody knows this. This will be boring. Ends up not boring. This is one of the aha moments of the program. There's several pieces of the program that create these aha moments, but week 7 with these thought traps is a huge tool that people years later will say, I still use that. I still use that because we still are human. We still have life happen. We still can catastrophize. We still can have, worst case scenario thinking. And those thoughts impact how we feel, which impacts what we do, which impacts how we sleep, which impacts everything. And so if we can shift that thought pattern, which we do have control over, which is, most people don't realize, you actually can change your thought intentionally and keep it changed, like refocus on it intentionally. That changes how we feel. It changes our anxiety levels. It changes the vibe we're putting out. And then to be able to teach this to our kids, like
Right.
this is the game changer. My son is
Mm.
15. He got a job at Chick-fil-A, which is the cutest thing ever. And when he was going, like, he knew he was going to have a job interview. He came out of school and he goes, Mom, I practiced being friendly and extroverted today. And I was like, good. Like, tell me how you did it. And he goes, I walked down the hall and I gave people eye contact and I said hi. And guess what? Everyone said hi back. And I was like, yes. And he goes, I realize that if they don't say hi, it's probably because they're thinking about something else that's going on and it's not about me at all.
Mm.
And I'm like, all of this work and he's getting it.
It's
So you
worth
just think
it.
like the reason why we do this work is so we can innately teach our kids and they can get it too. It really is that ripple effect.
It
Yeah.
really is. And it's not our first language to think that way, to work, to whatever. interact with other people, but it can be our kids' first language. So, and if we model it, that's one way. And if we teach it, that's another way. So, if just understanding that we can do the hard work so it's easier for them. And that's breaking cycles. This is generational. The way that I think, the way that I behave is based largely upon the way that I was raised. And that was largely based upon how they were raised. And so when you figure out, okay, well, this isn't working, I'm unhappy or whatever, what's going on? What are you willing to do to change it? And as you make that shift, you're teaching your kids.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if it were easy to make that shift,
Yeah.
we would already be there. But
Yeah.
that's why need coaches, and we need these like pathways. We need a path to follow. I had somebody say, I knew I needed to heal. I didn't know how. How do I heal? And so going through weeks 8 and 9, which are grief and guilt and resentment, and we've got these exercises that you do that kind of give you that pathway for growth, means you don't have to figure it out on your own. You're giving a proven exercise that supports this, helping you to release that onion layer. And then your family does notice. They notice you're lighter. They notice you're not as reactive. They notice you're not living at that 8, 9, or 10 and a volcano where you're about to blow. They notice that you're asking them questions and you're engaged with them in a different way. And it's because you yourself feel better.
Something that we struggle with is this squirrel brain of we jump from thing to thing to thing, because when it actually gets difficult and we actually have to do the work and make the change, we're like, oh, well, this isn't for me. So I'm going to go find that next thing that's going to help me be better, have more understanding, whatever it is, the thing that you're trying to work on. And so we don't actually ever allow ourselves to get to the core of what needs to change and what needs to be done, because that first sight of being uncomfortable. So I'm totally guilty. I was in a training the other day, and they were talking about like how many freebies are in your email inbox right now, because anytime you scroll something, you're like, that's what I need. So I'm going to download the freebie and I'm going to do that. And how many of you never open it? How many of you never allow yourself to even get started because you're constantly searching for that next and next thing? And so saying yes to 90-day Uturn was probably the first thing in a very long time that I did and stuck with and went through the entire process of twice. And I think that people sign up for stuff and they just never allow themselves the opportunity to like, okay, I'm going to do this because that first sight of being uncomfortable is like, oh no, this must not be for me. This isn't the answer I was looking for. And therefore then they keep this constant cycle of searching. The other thing I was thinking was, for me, my son is very much an extrovert. He is very much a people person. That boy doesn't have an ounce of fear or anything when it comes to connecting with people. He is working right now this summer and he loves people. And so hearing his stories of the way that he's connecting is amazing. And what I find the generational chain that I need to break is not letting my fear, my anxiety change who he is. And so not only is this, this growth journey for me about changing myself, it's really allowing my kids to be who they are and allow me to aid them, not change them. They don't need to be more like me because I'd like to be a little bit less like me. I need to be more like them in the actions that they have that's like very outgoing. They don't worry about how their actions are like they'll ask a question and I'm sitting there like, what is coming out of their mouth? Please God, let it be something that's, like not that's going to stress me out. We have to, these skills, they're watching us. They're growing. Like that's literally, we talk about this all the time on this podcast, allowing like our actions speak louder than words. And what are we instilling in these kids? Because they're going to be adults and we would love to raise emotionally healthy individuals who are able to, like you said, have this be a first language. We're learning. This is a muscle that we're building and we're grinding it out every day, every week, trying to become, every day is a new opportunity to try again, to be better, to make different choices, to react differently. And our kids it's never too late to allow this to become a norm in your life so that it becomes the norm in your kids' life and your grandkids' lives. And I think that I would love to see, whether you think you need it or not, to find your tribe, find a community, and truly allow yourself to get involved with it. You know, like I said, too many sign up and don't do anything. And that is very much a norm. You're not alone in that. But the few that do stick it out, the few that do allow it to transform their lives, that's change. That's where you're going to look back in 10 years and be like, I am a completely different person than I was because I allowed myself to get uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I have a question for you. How do you, along those same lines of feeling like we need to be looking for something new, you've had 90-day U-turn for how many years now?
I was just thinking about that. I feel like it's been 5 years. I think I
5 years.
created and I think I first launched it in 2021, which I can't believe it's been that long. Yeah. And then the certification came in like 2022.
Wow. How many 90-day U-turn, groups or whatever do you run a year?
It depends.
Okay.
So there were times where there have been seasons where I'm running 2 or 3 at a time, where I have Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then a Wednesday morning. I also had a men's group recently. I had a man say, "Do you work with men?" And I was like, the answer is always yes, sure do. Let's figure this out. So I'm not going to have a man be partnered up with a woman and talk about all this life stuff. So then I had to find a men's group. So I had husbands of coaches that joined and we did a couple rounds of a men's group. So yeah, typically at least one, if not up to 3 at a time. Just kind of opening the doors every few months to fill up the next one.
It's amazing.
And what kind of mindset work have you done, or was it just effortless to stay committed to this 90-day? You're seeing the results come in. Has any piece of you been like, okay, I need to work on something else, or because that's what I find is that we try to do too much. We try to constantly brand, and I love and respect the fact that like you have a proven system that works. You get results. People's lives are completely changed and you keep running this program. You keep the doors. You don't feel like I need to go over here and do this now, or I don't like get driven over here. And this might be me speaking to myself.
And me.
I'm looking for your coaching live on call to tell me that this is what I
Constant
need to
coaching.
know.
What a very interesting question,
Yeah.
Jessica. I mean, I certainly have those moments where I'm like, it's a little rinse and repeat for me now. It's not hard for me to run, which obviously, even retreats.
Mm.
Alicia, my event planner, and I could run a treat next week. Like, they're so rinse and repeat for us now, which is what you want to get to. And it can
Correct.
get a little boring.
Right.
So, what I've learned to do is instead of like, revamping, which I could revamp the entire thing at some point, make the videos a little smaller. Like I'm kind of thinking right now, like, that's a good idea. Maybe I should. At some point I will, but I could revamp or create a whole nother course or create a whole nother thing, or I could play around with how people find me. And I think that's where
Yeah.
my creative juices really go is to the lead generation stuff. So podcasting or a goal getter or, Facebook ads for the workbook, like that is what
Mhm.
changes. And then the core programs stay the same, but that allows me to utilize the creativity and try something new without changing the entire business model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that we can apply that to every aspect of our life. Like, we don't need to revamp the whole thing. We need to just make little changes, minor changes that help ultimately us move forward in the process. No matter what our goals is, business related, relationship related, household related, just as a mom, as a wife, anything of the sort, we get stuck in our own way because we think that we have to revamp this whole thing. And then we don't do anything. And then, if we're able to focus on one small thing or get creative with one thing.
I do think that when people are working full-time jobs, I know I was there at one point too, like it can become a little bit boring. You know what to do. You understand the paperwork. So it gets rinse and repeat and then you think, well, should I change jobs? Maybe, or maybe pick up a hobby. Get your excitement from somewhere else because there
Right.
is something to be said about having a business or a corporate position that feels stable and boring.
Right.
And I think that we can get our needs met in a different way without revamping it all.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. And then really figuring out like you don't have to change everything overnight. You don't have to work on 5, 6 different things you want to change about yourself. What does life look like if you met your goal? What are you doing? Who are you with? And what is one step to get there without having to do 5 different things? And then really figuring out what is one thing, Denise, I got this from your program. What is one thing that you can do that'll make the biggest impact, that'll have a ripple effect in other areas of your life? Let's start there. And remember, 1% every day is still progress. That's another thing I got from your program too. Denise. And so I think sometimes I know for myself, I'm a lifelong learner. I've been in school my entire adult life. I feel like I always have to have every single certification and I need to have all these acronyms and all these things. And at the end of the day, what does it even mean? Does it bring me more value? Does it bring me more meaning? And if the answer is no, because it was, then what am I doing? And
Right.
what will make the biggest impact? What will shift it for me? So I'm happy. I have value in my life. Like I'm doing the things that I want to do, not just to chase another credential, right? And so I really had to come to terms with that. And it was because of your program that I was able to kind of come through that, which was interesting because I was actively pursuing my MSW at the time I was doing that.
And you're like, "You're already good enough, Chrissy."
Right, right.
But
At
I did
least
have
you yeah.
doctoral programs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I love that. In the retreats, let's just talk a little bit about your retreats. Do you have a Costa Rica on the calendar? What's
We
looking
don't. We don't. We're looking at October 2026 or spring of 2027 to get back to Costa Rica. Destin is also a really favorite spot because you can see the sunrise and the sunset on in the same day and over the water. It's beautiful. But Costa Rica has a place in my heart. We found the best location. It 2 doors down from a pool with a bar and a restaurant, like, it feels like amenities, and then, they pick you up and take you. We've seen monkeys, we go for hikes in the jungle, we've done zip lining, like, we do a lot of different fun stuff there, and it's pretty easy to get to because it's in Central Time, you're just going straight down, so Costa Rica is one of our favorites, and we will put that on the calendar. Most likely, that one would be spring of 2027.
Oh, that's awesome. And do you have to be part of the program to go to the retreat?
No, nope. I found that people are more likely to go to retreats if they know the people that are coming, you
Yeah.
know? So getting to know people within 90-day U-turn or the certification program, they were more excited to go because they were like, "Oh my gosh, we get to meet in person." So I have found that the clients are the ones that typically say yes, but I've had people sign up that I did not know and just randomly came and they had no idea what they were getting into, I feel like, but the transformation happened and it's the cutest thing. When you see those aha moments and those light bulb moments go, turn on and off. The other thing I will turn on. We don't want them to turn off. But the other thing I'll just mention is that coaches who come to the retreats actually get a chance to share. So we break up the little activities and the coaches get to share an activity and practice speaking in front of the crowd and leading and facilitating an activity, which is really special for them too.
Yeah, yeah. Jess, we
And
got to get another one on our calendar.
I know, the wheels are already spinning.
I know. I know. And I do think that they need to be on your calendar because time goes by so fast. And if we don't do it, a year will go by, 3 years, 5 years, and we really haven't poured into ourselves in this way. And then for business owners, I'm like, pictures that we get from these retreats, we're still using. It's a business write-off to come to these events because not only are you posting about it, you're posting about your growth, you're learning, you're taking it back to your own clients, but then you get these pictures that you can use forever.
Yeah, it's true. We've talked about Chrissy and I would love to host a retreat and, do something where we could connect and bring some women. We could bring them out here, out west. We could host them. There's so much to do hike wise. Like it reminded us of being in Tennessee because it was very similar to like hiking and we've got the rivers and there's so much to do. So, and I do think it's important whether a business owner or not, like the world is heavy, motherhood is tough, like life will easily beat you up if you're not putting something that's soul filling on your calendar. Like you right, 5 years ago that go by and you're like, where am I? Like what is this? Like life is going by in the blink of an eye. And am I thriving? Am I enjoying it? Am I whole? Do I love myself? Like all of these questions. Or are you literally just getting by day by day?
Pilot. Do you have a upcoming 90-day U-turn that's going to start that we can share with our listeners, a certification program or today? But let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. So the next 90-day U-turn, I'm going to open the doors in July and it'll start end of July or beginning of August. And then the certification program starts around the same time. So basically you do 90-day U-turn first so you can experience the content. And then the second round, you help facilitate the content. So you coach people that are within the program. You pick a few weeks where you're the lead facilitator. You send me recordings, that kind of thing. They do typically coincide. So July will be, because my family's in town now, so I feel like I can never do anything while they're here. Once they leave, I'll be back in action. And we'll open the doors in July for most likely an August start date.
Awesome. Highly recommend from my perspective. I would say if you're looking for something, you're not quite ready for therapy, because this is not therapy, this is coaching. However, there's still a lot of healing that happens, and it's a great space to start that work. So I would, for the listeners out there thinking about it, considering it, look Denise up, talk to her, ask questions. I don't know if you still do payments like Affirm and Klarna options. Like, you don't even have to pay all of it up front. You can do monthly payments. It's totally, totally worth it.
I often say, right, life will be the same unless you change it. And so if in 6 months you literally could be in a different spot. So much can change in 6 months if you do something different. But if not, you'll have, that
Same thing.
same thing over and over.
Definition of insanity, right?
That's right.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So, yes. Thank you, Denise, for our one last question. Would you have any advice for someone that might be struggling or considering maybe joining? They're on the fence. What would you say to someone that's listening? It's like, I kind of want to do it, but I don't know if the finances are there, but I really want to do it.
If you could do it, if you could shift and change on your own, you already would have. The community, the content, the roadmap, the belief that is poured into you, like so much can change in just a few short weeks if you are intentional about it. And so, the worst thing that can happen is you have more tools in your toolbox that you can use when life happens, because it absolutely will. What typically happens during 90-day U-turn is people leave with more clarity, more vision, more excitement, and whether it's writing a book or starting a business or really homeschooling their kids, like they're more into whatever they've decided to be into, and that takes them on a completely different direction.
Yes. Actually, Jess and I both put out journals after 90-day
Yeah.
U-turn. I mean, we could talk all day
You
about.
guys, you are like living proof that kicks you in the right direction, and it relit your spark and gave you the community to do it with. Because doing business on your own is kind of lonely. We don't need to be in our office by ourselves. In this community, it makes such a big difference. And I'm so proud of the fact that not only you guys said yes at the beginning, but you keep saying yes. You keep showing up for yourself, for your clients, trying new things. Jess, your app is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
This podcast, you guys are continuing to create what your clients need. And like, you're doing the dang thing. So be proud of everything that you've said yes to and continue to walk the walk.
Thank you. And I will forever be grateful for you, Denise, and your program. I know that I did the work, but I wouldn't have been able to do the work if it wasn't for you and your guidance in your program.
Yeah,
So.
I held you accountable to
You
making.
sure did.
And gave space for us to sit with it and understand it. It's not just, I too am forever grateful, because it's still to this day, and I still have my binder and I pull it out all the time, and I'm like, oh, what week was this that I need to, sit with? And so it like you said, there was never a good time. There's never a perfect scenario where you're like, okay, now the stars are aligned, I feel good. Financially, my bank account's what it needs to be so I can say yes. Like, there's never a perfect time. And had I not said yes, would I be where I am today? Like literally, I would not be here in Southeast Idaho. My marriage would not be where it is. And so whatever just that day that I was like, I'm doing this. I probably didn't have the money to. I probably didn't have this, mental capacity to take on another thing. But saying yes truly changed my life. And I think that we need to be okay with starting where you are. Not ready, not stars aligned, not perfect, but just saying yes, because it is so worth it. And it's something that Chrissy and I both talk about all the time. Like, our lives are forever changed. It's something that we still use today, and that we try to use our platforms to speak the same language. Like, you need to do this, because life's too short. You deserve joy, you deserve peace, you deserve to understand your thoughts and be able to take control of them. So yeah, thank you for saying yes to joining us today. We super appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for
Absolutely.
hanging out with us on Mom, Fuel, and Mindset. If today's conversation spoke to you, take it as your reminder that happy moms don't come from doing more. They come from choosing themselves and owning their growth.
And if you loved this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mom who needs a little fuel and a mindset shift today.
Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, keep growing forward, and remember, happy moms own their growth.
See you soon.